Hello, everyone. My name is Chanel Miller, and I wrote Know My Name and revealed my identity in September of 2019. So the story is centered around sexual assault, but to me, the story is about what it's like to be surrounded by oppressive voices about how to build a little fortress, no matter how fragile, around your mind and heart to preserve your own perspective and create enough quiet to listen to what you are feeling and thinking. Many of you are already familiar with my story. It begins when I was 22. Fresh out of college, I moved in with my parents in Palo Alto. In January 2015, I go to a party at Stanford and am sexually assaulted. I was found half naked and unconscious behind a dumpster with my hair full of pine needles, and two Swedish graduate students who happened to be biking by saw my assailant on top of me, chased him, tackled him, and held him down until he was arrested. I pressed charges against my attacker and was born into the public eye as Emily Doe. For months after the assault, I could not form words around what had happened to me. I'd read articles online and all the comments below them. And that's when I started to learn shame, learn that what had happened wasn't sad, that real crimes don't occur on campuses, that I should be the one humiliated for being sloppy. And my assailant was held up as an excellent student, an All American athlete, and I was reduced to nothing more than a threat to his image. So I start losing focus. I cry at night. I put ice cubes in Ziploc bags. Every morning, I hold the bags to my eyes when I'm driving to work. After work, I come back to the car. The ice is melted in the baggies. I pour the lukewarm water into the grass, and that becomes my little routine. I start wearing large clothing, sleeves that hang past my hands. The court dates keep getting pushed. I decide I need to leave my job in order to focus on preparing for my case. So 8 months go by. I still cannot verbalize my story, but I was running out of time before I'd have to testify at the preliminary hearing. So I Google sexual assault therapist, find a therapist, and treat her like my personal trainer. I say, you have a few weeks to get me ready for this court date. And I go home to Palo Alto. Nobody in my life knows I'm there. I arrive at this little faded salmon colored courthouse with a janky elevator. There's no snacks, not even tea. I take the stand, but when I get to the part about waking up in the hospital, I lose it. I erupt sobbing. It feels like my lungs have been punctured. My neck wilts. My eyes are blurry with tears. I cannot speak. Reporters are scribbling on their notepads in the back. The next day, articles come out that say the victim cried. It's simple, shallow. So I sleep for a few weeks after that. I'm feeling depleted like a burden. The case is putting a lot of stress on my family, and I start to think I could slip off the earth and make a quiet exit because I could no longer imagine a future where I could transcend what was happening to me. And no one's going to want to hire me. The narrative was too dominant and I was too small inside it. But I thought back to when I was a student at UC Santa Barbara. A few weeks before my graduation, there was a shooting, and the gunman released a manifesto about how much he hated women and posted a video saying, I'm coming to Isla Vista, where I was living at the time, to kill you girls. I was with my friends. We locked ourselves in our apartment, closed the blinds, tried not to make sound, pulled a mattress onto the floor, and slept in a pile, and woke up to find that 6 classmates had been killed. So during my worst times, I'd say to myself, I know existing is painful right now, but somehow you're still here. And there are forces out there trying to silence you, who want you to disappear. And if you mute yourself, those voices will succeed, and I can't have that. So I started to think about how there are other parts of me that were not being fed. They were undernourished. I had to feed them and take care of them. For example, I love art. Like right now, I could draw a 10-headed flamingo straight out of my mind with no visual aids if I wanted to. So I signed up for a printmaking class. I resented how serious and buttoned up and humorless court was, so I started doing stand-up comedy, and I'm coming back to life. Cut to the trial. Crying all over the place, snot everywhere. In the book, I describe the cross-examination as the defense attorney tying my shoelaces together and forcing me to run. He says she blacked out, doesn't remember anything, has nothing to offer. He's firing off objections, won't let me speak. It's a verbal beatdown. I am not okay. I am feeling weak, but there's one night that changes me. My younger sister had been at the party. She was called as a witness to testify. She comes home after being cross-examined, and she's vacant, totally despondent, saying my assault is her fault. And I thought, you think you are guilty? Like, you are sunshine embodied. You're my little sister being subjected to unnecessary suffering. So suddenly the defense attorney, who I'd put on this pedestal of prestige with law degrees on law degrees, did not scare me. I could see what he was doing, which was taking that seed of self-doubt and injecting it until it was so swollen inside us that we wanted to retreat and forget what right we had to speak. He depended on our self-loathing. But now I knew what he was doing. I understood my sister needed protecting. My fear dissolves, the game has changed. And this is important because often we don't know how to fight for ourselves, but we always figure out a way to fight for the people we love. It is an untapped power that we possess that we can activate at any time. So we secure the verdict. My assailant is found guilty, convicted of 3 felonies of assault and attempted rape. And there's 2 months until the sentencing. My prosecutor says write 2 to 3 pages, a victim impact statement about how this experience has affected you. And I say my feelings will not fit into that. So I write 12 pages. I show up to the sentencing, read it aloud, unwavering. The judge says, thanks, and announces a sentence of 6 months, which means my assailant would serve a total of 3 months in county jail, which is 1 month for each felony. I want to note that the failure is not just the short sentencing, it was the fact that nothing was learned, that he emerged without ever having to acknowledge or hear me. I go home so defeated thinking, why did I gut myself and share my little diary? I thought the judge is right. Like, who cares what happens to you? I am one anonymous person in a tiny city, one court case of literally thousands. What power did you think you had? This is where I believed my story would end. But meanwhile, the universe is cooking up a different ending. So the next day, BuzzFeed gets permission to publish the statement. And in 4 days, 11 million people read it. That number will soon reach 18 million. Calls to rape crisis centers begin surging, letters begin pouring into the courtroom from Idaho and Ireland and India. Vice President Biden, now president, wrote me a letter of encouragement. Members of Congress read it on the House floor. 2 laws were changed in California, and later the judge was recalled. And I cannot process this. I just tell myself, listen to what they're telling you. You have done something courageous. My other parents start sending me photos of their daughters saying, I hope she grows up to be like you. And I look at these photos and I start to reframe how I see myself. People are teaching me who I am and what I mean to them. And so I'm reading these letters like medicine, rewiring my system. This is all happening. I had just turned 24. There's all these inquiries saying, do you want to write a book? And I was like, what the heck? Yeah. So I'm flown to New York. I meet my agent. She has an office with a window overlooking the river. I see boats, like my editor's office. In the lobby, there's a huge orange penguin. The front desk has a vase with magnolia branches in it. So I think, wow, boat, penguin, magnolia, I've made it. They say, go write 90,000 words. And I freak out, call my mom. My mom's a writer. She's written multiple books in Chinese. And she was like, 90,000 words, easy. But I'm still worried I think, who am I to tell this story? I never studied law. I'm too young to write a memoir. My wisdom is not seasoned. I'm not an expert in sexual assault, but I do know what it's like to sit in that witness stand. I know what it's like to be Asian American and denied visibility in this country. And this experience is mine and mine only, and that's what I can offer. And I want students to know that they can write from that place too, the place that is only theirs. We are past the time where all we do is tell young women to cover their drinks and have a strong buddy system. Assault is not a personal failure. It is our failure to identify this recurring pattern of violence and to take it seriously. A world without sexual assault is not fantasy. In my story, two Swedes pinned down my attacker and said to him, "What the F are you doing?" Apologize to her. They showed me a reality where we're respected and protected, where safety is non-negotiable. No matter the circumstance, bodily autonomy is never put into question. We must pay attention to biases in the criminal justice system, examine who is disposable, who is doubted, who is trusted, who is humanized, who is overlooked. There are too many brilliant young people who have their trajectories interrupted when something like this happens, and it is not the survivor's job to make their story less gruesome. It's our job to equip ourselves to listen. Everyone here right now plays a significant role in a survivor's life, whether you know it or not. We are surrounded by survivors, and how well you educate yourself will determine whether you contribute to that survivor's hurting or healing. But there is no opting out. The generosity of the world saved me. The public told me to keep following my voice. That's the only reason this book was created. I was made to understand that I was meant to be heard from the very beginning. And I hope every young person who encounters this book will realize the worth of their stories and know that we are ready to hear them too. Thank you.